So we're going to move on. Carlos, you can stay up here, and we're going to call somebody else up. Our next subject, we're going to ignite you into the creativity in our next fireside chat. Move over AI, it's time for creative automation. How does a world where Chat GPT isn't just a tool, but a teammate? Curious? Then you're in the right place. We're about to dive deep into how AI and creative automation are joining forces to spark a revolution in the marketing industry. You've already met Carlos. Let's bring up one more guest speaker today. Give a round of applause for Masroor Huck. Are you in the house?
I am.
Hi.
Yeah, I do. Thank you. Oh,
Hello,
no,
my friend.
you got me ready for
Can you hear me?
journey now.
We're good.
Cool.
How are you?
Lovely. Good talk.
You like it?
I do.
It was all made with AI. No,
Yeah,
it was not
right.
made all with AI. We actually spent a lot of time. But tell me a little bit about you.
I mean, so he talked about how to use ChatGPT and how we do it in creative automation. But now I'm kind of curious, how are you using it in all the different ways of talking about marketing, right? And so for me, she had mentioned the top of the funnel, but now if you're doing with so many businesses, so many products, so many things, it's kind of been interesting to use such a powerful tool in how we speed up a lot of this process, right? So I'm in everything from marketing to private equity and business and real estate, and it's been kind of fun journey to see the last 2 years and how AI and Gen AI and all of this stuff kind of comes into play with the conversations that we need to have on a regular basis, especially the conversations on how we need to grow our businesses, right?
It's interesting that you mentioned that. For the longest time, I had tech skills, but I was not a programmer.
Hmm.
So I actually used to open a document and just type, I need to do this. And then I went to the next step. I know that I need to, let's say, connect to the database. I need to get the information from Facebook. I need to, whatever it was. And now,
You were ahead of your time because that's the new programming language,
yeah,
right?
that English, the new programming language. So now I actually can go and say, help me create this. Like I actually have a bot that when you ask questions to ChatGPT, at the end it tell you, do you want to connect and get more information? And if you say yes, it asks you, okay, what is your email? And then what is your phone? And then it send it out to the platform, and then we actually can start interacting with the person.
Hmm.
So I think the topic is for automation, and I think that the conversation that we need to now have is what do I wish I could do? Because now is the time to make it a reality. And for us that are in the marketing world, what do I wish that I could do? I wish that I can analyze this data that Facebook is giving me. I wish that I could look at the analytics that Google Analytics is giving me, or I wish that I could do X, Y, Z. Now I can actually do that and start interacting like I have
Hmm.
someone next to me. Hey, I don't understand this. And it's gonna go and tell you what it is.
Well, in creative automation too, it's not just about that one bot, because think about all the different roles that we have to play and all the different tasks and scenarios that we have to consider. So then creative automation ends up being a bunch of agents and a
Yep.
bunch of bots that do very specific roles that work hand in hand to kind of pass the baton to create the best outcome and the best user flow and user journey, right?
Correct. And I think that just to define it a little bit, because again, to try to level set the room, um, the automation bot could be a task that is happening. So it constantly just do, let's say that I want to write a headline for an email and I want it to be sounding like our company. I can create the list of the automation so it will do it for me. Give me a new headline that will leverage our company branding instead of me typing it all the time. It will do that. So that is what an automation,
Well,
single automation bot.
and I'm kind of curious, how many solo founders are there in the room? Okay.
Okay.
How many hats do you guys usually have to wear on a regular day?
All of them.
35, 50-ish, right? And then so now using ChatGPT, how many roles are you able to fulfill through actual like dedicated like efficient utility of ChatGPT? Are you able to get through your day a little bit faster, better, especially in different roles of the different hats that you have to wear? Have you automated it so they just do it for you together without you? Is that fair? Is that a fair assessment? If you're already doing it and you're doing it in segmentation, they can just do it themselves without you, right? So that's kind of like the automation part and the creative automation part of kind of syncing all of that stuff together, um, and having those conversations where it might not necessarily require you.
It's interesting because I think that one of the challenges we're working with an international institute to train people in AI because I saw the need similar to I think that the speaker on the previous session was talking about that the internet in the 1990s revolutionized
Hmm.
everything. AI is doing something similar. And one of the challenges that we're seeing is that people think AI gonna take my role or my job.
Hmm.
And one of the things that I've seen is that AI is just the simplest way that I can describe it is like Microsoft Word. Microsoft Word has the potential to write the best business plan that will create the next Apple $1 trillion company. But it needed someone
Hmm.
with some intelligence to actually leverage Microsoft Word to write down all the information so it can actually be read by someone. So AI is very similar. It has a lot of potential. It's not the Terminator.
I agree. And I think now moving forward, we'll see a lot more solo founders and one man teams that can accomplish a lot of what these big name brands are doing because of that as well.
And that is when you mentioned automation, I started remembering. Um, I actually, like you said, I was looking for ways to automate what we do in our company,
Hmm.
and ChatGPT alleviated a lot. But then I'm like, how can I automate a lot of that? So we start working with software to automate a lot of that work. And I think the key is each of us need to first define the processes
I agree.
that we need to do on our day-to-day basis before we can go into buying tools, buying into, oh, this bot gonna automate and make your life easier. Because what I've seen is that a lot of people buy all these tools and they're launching tools. If you want to have a quick glance, there's a website called futuretools.io. I think that every day you get between 10 and 100
New
new tools.
AI tools.
So it's so big, the market right now.
Hmm.
Because again, people had challenges, they found a way to solve them.
Hmm.
But I don't need 10,000 tools.
It's true.
I need probably 20 tools. But I need to know why do I need those tools. Like last week, I tested a brand new tool that they actually take your videos, they chop them, they have AI on it, they create the clips, they put the music, and they put everything. In paper, it sounded really great. That's okay. Let me buy it. I bought the whole thing, agency level. Let me try it. I'm gonna try it with some of my customers. All of a sudden, the tool works very good, but doesn't focus in the subject.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
all of a sudden, the tool didn't meet my need.
Hmm.
So you
It's
see,
not that personalization. It's not that hyper
correct.
focal. Yeah.
So that's what's gonna happen. There's gonna be a lot of different ways to automate what we do, but we need to know what is what we need to do. I don't need to, example, I need to automate email delivery. I need to automate when somebody go to a landing page that
Hmm.
they can get the information. Like I don't need to send them a mail letter printed with the, oh, here's how to do this. No, I can deliver it right away. That's a simple automation. With AI, I need to know what I want to automate so then I can do that.
Well, and it's also going back to the conversation of replacing people or replacing jobs and things like that, where I think that the human touch is really the focal point of what is going to launch your businesses moving forward. It's going to be that authenticity. It's going to be the things that AI can't necessarily do that hyper focal, be able to be creative, and insightful, because I think AI is going to be more of regurgitation of what already exists versus the new way of moving forward and being our own impactful way of doing things.
When you guys can't sleep, if you go and you look for the Google video that describe how LLMs work,
Hmm.
it probably will put you to sleep very quick if that is not your thing. But one of the interesting details that it describes what an LLM is, ChatGPT is based on the OpenAI LLM, is just predicting based on what it have learned before
Hmm.
what it is. So one detail that it doesn't have is the human empathy detail. That's where you have to prompt it correctly, and some studies show that your prompt should be starting at 450 words so you can actually get a good response from the LLM. Because if not, it's just gonna say, "How do I do this?" and it's gonna tell you the X, Y, and Z. That's it. It's not gonna go the human touch. So when we automate, one of the things that we do is that we actually create a little bit of randomness in the prompts.
That makes sense.
So when the platform, like example, like you can use Zapier,
Hmm.
you can use Pabbly, you can use Make. If you're starting, those are great platforms to start.
Those are middleware platforms that connect different softwares together.
Yeah.
By the way.
Um, but when you have a marketing agency, it will be worth investing in a tool called N8N. And the reason that I mentioned that with ChatGPT, because you're going back and forth, you're not paying for tasks. You own the tool, you control it. So the payment of going back and forth, to give you an example, a conversation that could cost me probably between $1 and $50 to complete, it cost me probably 10 cents
Right.
because I own then that infrastructure, and all that I have to do is talk to ChatGPT.
Well, and prompt engineering is a whole different conversation as well, because going back to the roles and the tasks that all of us need to do and achieve, there's different metrics and different insights that we're looking for. And being able to identify and create an effective pathway for that role and task to be done is a whole nother whirlwind. And how you can program essentially or interact with AI and using different types of prompts, what the prompt should have, using NLP and all of this good stuff, and how to extract the best data is a whole nother science in and of itself as well.
Yeah, the idea of I look at it this way. I love speaking. I love talking to other people. That is one of my on a this personality profile. I'm a DI, and
Okay.
sometimes I'm an ID. So that's dominant, inspiring. Sometimes inspiring, dominant. So I can be talking the whole day. Like we used to go to a conference in Orlando, and literally we started like around 6 o'clock in the morning, and it was 12 o'clock at night, and we were still connecting and interacting and doing things.
Hmm.
So I look at an AI platform as probably having literally someone right next to me that I can try to figure out the problem that I'm trying to solve. And when I do that, it's not that I'm making it my friend, but I am like, hey, sorry, we have this problem. Do you know how to fix it? And you're gonna tell me, oh yeah, let's figure out. Let's try this. And then I go, okay, I tried it. It works, but I had this problem. It give me an error.
Hmm.
Error, you couldn't connect or something like that. You go, oh, sorry. It's like having people that you interact. And in that way, it make it easier. And when we automate then that problem, we can go and then, like you said, you're asking someone, now they can do the work without you. To a certain degree, they can, but to a certain degree, they have to depend on your input.
Yep.
And that, I think that that's a key, that AI will enable us to be successful in what we do, but we cannot depend on the output that comes on the first time. I need to go,
Yeah, multiple iterations.
correct. I need to verify that that output is correct.
And that's where the judgment of that iteration comes in, right? So, do I use iteration number 3 or 4 is kind of also where you sit. What is the quality of my brand? What is the standards that I want to stay up aggress and get to that point is the reason we still need to exist to make those decisions.
Correct. And we need human beings that actually are learning ahead of us so we can connect with them. Like,
Hmm.
I have a mastermind that I connect with them every Friday, and all that they talk is about that.
Hmm.
And I'm looking and learning from them and going, oh, yeah, I tried that. It didn't work that way. Here's what you could do. Or they went, and because they had a different use case, they actually went and here's what we did to automate it.
Hmm.
Now we're bringing the data in a different way. Like, we were having a problem with one of the apps that we're working on, and I wanted to bring all of our podcast so it will summarize it. Even though I have an app that does that, I wanted to bring the summarization to be able to
Hmm.
create the idea to repurpose the content. And we were having problems until then one of the developers figure out what to do to then leverage. And now I don't have to go anywhere else.
Right.
Now I have, and I automated that process that it was going to be, I needed to transcribe the podcast first,
Right.
then upload it if I was going to put on ChatGPT or read it, and then be able to create the post or the podcast or stuff like that. Now I can, in one shot, I go podcast link, podcast episode, go in, give me a summary, give me posts and stuff like that. So the idea, like I mentioned, what do we need to do? We need to know the process and then start automating it. And
And it's funny because the process part is super overlooked, especially if we have teams of people that are doing 5 different sets of processes. Um, it is super overlooked to be able to create a linear pathway of systems to say, okay, this happens first, this happens next. But you can automate that process flow to be able to do it just exactly the way you want, depending on your clarification of what's required and the prerequisites of each task.
that is a great use for a basic prompt of ChatGPT.
Hmm.
Okay, I need to do this task. Give me the list of steps to complete this process. And it will give it to you, and you can come and say, oh, yeah, I need 2 more processes, or no, I'm missing 3. And in that way, you can connect to it.
Yep, 100%. And it works both ways too, right? So it works in a way of managing tasks and roles, let's say the marketing department or sales or whatever the case, but it also works higher level as well. So, I have like a board of directors AI, right? And so I have board of directors that will manage my metrics as a person or my businesses to say, okay, we're moving in the right direction or this is where it should be. So there's different levels and different interactions that you can have based on what you need it to be, right? And that's also part of the creative part is what do you need it to be? If it's a Swiss Army knife, the Swiss Army knife, if you don't pull out the actual tool, doesn't actually do anything, right? You can throw it at somebody, but if you get the screwdriver out, now you can use it as a screwdriver, and that's really the other main aspect of it.
I think that I want to open it because you brought a good point, and I want to see the audience. I don't know if you guys remember the program MacGyver, even the original version or the new version. He's the only person in history.
Do you have a pack of gum on you? Is
No, I don't have
that?
Pacom, that I have seen that can use a Swiss Army knife to fix every problem.
Hmm.
So I would like to hear some of the challenges that the audience is having and see if we can help them
Yeah.
to try to automate some of them. Do you guys like that? Okay, who wanna start? A challenge that you have with AI or with one of your processes that you would like um, some help with so we can go into a discussion on how we will automate that. Volunteers? Okay, we have one there.
Here you go, my man.
Sure.
Yeah.
Basically is so like you said, you can't have that human element, right? I use AI to create rough drafts or validate a premise, but how is it? I find that a lot of people think good enough is great, but it's really just bland. But they can't tell the difference. So how do we make them aware? I mean, how do you? That's my challenge. Is I find AI generates very bland content, but it is a good start.
Hmm.
I don't think it's at the point. I mean, I don't know who here heard the new George Carlin AI album. Anyone? It was not funny at all. It sounded like him, had his rhythm,
Hmm.
cadence, everything, but I didn't laugh, and that's the one KPI for comedy, right? And it didn't happen. So, but some people out there, I bet, think thought it was really funny. So that's the challenge. It's very ambiguous, and I'm not sure what can be done.
Yeah, I think it gets you 80% of the way there, 75% of the way there, right? But it's also tweaking and adjusting it and making sure that it has the right inputs to be able to create the ideal outputs, right? And also the level of standard that we set for ourselves for our personal brand and the way we want to show up is a whole different game in and of itself, right? There's some businesses that are okay with the generic outputs that are out there, and then there's other ones where we can tell pretty quick, like, no, that's not me. But it's also based on, like, there's my personal chatbot, that it has like maybe 30 or 40 different inputs, going from census to Facebook metrics or whatever the case, right? And so there's a lot of metrics that come in and feed and fine tune my personal AI versus just that one general aspect of things.
I will say that, as you mentioned, you know how you sound. The customer may sound like you, but they may want to sound like them. To
Hmm.
give an example, if you're working for a female brand, we probably can speak exactly like a woman. So then, when the content is created, you want to probably have somebody that will review that and say, does this sound something like it will attract you? And also you go, no, this doesn't sound like me. Or if it like a recipe is very simple, three of this, four of that, a couple of this. So there's not like a lot of checking there. But if you're doing a scientific paper, you're doing something that you want to connect. Remember the personalization. That's when you show your customer. I sometimes show them what it is. Okay, here's what comes out. Here's how I made it better. It doesn't mean that we cannot use tools. There's always tools that we as a trade for our trade we need to use. What we do is that we make it better. We actually sit down and go, okay, you use a word that Facebook will flag that as a bad ad. So that could not go in. You know that, but what can you do? You can actually get that list, feed it, like Monsieur mentioned, to your custom bot and say, do not use any of these words
Hmm.
in the copy that you create. And then you give it the personality so it sounds different. At the end of the day, like the word says, the the test is on the pudding. Like when you do run the ad, if it converts, it's good. If it doesn't convert, it's not good. So that's what the copy gonna make the difference. And leveraging AI gonna help you to start the process, like Masoud mentioned. You have to take it to the finish line.
And part of that, there's a couple steps involved in that. So you can do the creative output, and even if it's generic, you can try 5, 10 different things that you might not have done. But if you find something that's successful, you can reverse engineer and figure out and go back and feed it back and say, why did this become successful? I didn't even go down that pathway. And so that's a whole nother thing that you can do, is kind of, again, going back through the iteration process and just fine tuning.
Another problem, another question. You guys are master on AI? Come on. There have to be probably some challenges that you want to automate in your business. Mhm.
So, uh, so you mentioned about personalization in AI. Okay, so I've been an active, what you say, the person on putting on LinkedIn and things like that. Now I've been making my own post, but it used to take sometimes 1 hour, 2 hours, depending on whatever it is. Now with the Chat GPT, for me it just takes seconds to generate that content, and it helps me to schedule that content much easily and faster, even especially when I keep traveling around. But the challenge which happens is that even though the content looks good, it's not personalized.
Correct.
It has actually, while the content is being posted continuously, my I'm not a very big fan of likes or comments, because most of the business which we do is actually comes out of the likes and comments. That's not the point. But the traction of those posts which has been generated out of Chat GPT, even though it looks pretty good to me from that perspective, from the language and from other perspectives, uh, but personalized is always better. So how do you manage this personalized aspect of Chat GPT or any other kind of content generation, be it the graphic design or it could be the content design into using AI?
Okay, I will tell you what I do. I have one of our blog that goes on LinkedIn, very similar. Uh, I work leadership, technology, spiritual development. The leadership one, I actually have three different chatbots that I use to be able to create the post. That post, what ChatGPT gave me, like Mansoor mentioned, is the 80%. And I sit down and I go, okay, for me is the research. Before I used to go to a library or to the books, and again, I'm dating myself. When I used to go into university, I used to have to open the little box and go through the little things to, okay, the car
Car
catalog.
catalogs.
So now I don't have to do that. So ChatGPT is giving me the meat and potatoes. Now I sit down, and the first thing that I do, I have a Grammarly paid business account. Grammarly, and I go, my settings are I want to be professional, and I forgot what is the other one. But the idea is that anything that I write need to go through that filter. So I go and I fix the whole content to make sure that it meets that. And I sit down and I read it. I go, one thing is that it looks good. Another thing is reading it to see if it actually is good. Because yeah, it can generate that in 2 minutes, copy, paste, go, done. But again, you're not gonna get the engagement. So now, after I go through that, I will say it will take me probably, let's say 10 minutes to go through that cleaning. Second thing that I go against plagiarism. Give me anything that looks like it has been used somewhere else. And Grammarly is great for that. That actually is the most tedious part, because now it's gonna highlight everything that may appear somewhere else. Now I have to, based on the article, rewrite it. So because I rewrote then that content, it may have to then go again through the Grammarly to fix it. When that finishes, I go, this is good, copy. Now I go back to ChatGPT and go, here's, summarize this, give me keywords, give me hashtag, give me a 160 character summary. That give me then everything that I need. And then I take the article and I have another bot and I go, I want to create the blog post image based on this article.
Right.
You see, you go, and I haven't automated the whole way because I want to be involved in that part. Because again, like you mentioned, that's part of my thought leadership in the leadership realm. So I can actually help in this case, because the new book that just came out, I'm working with leaders that want to, or professionals that want to become leaders. And nobody was training them. So I said, okay, I'm going to take the time and I'm going to train them. So each article is like guiding them a little bit more. You just got a new position. So that's oh, it doesn't sound like that. Okay, then that post need to get rewritten. That's something that you could do. Right?
And I would have backtracked. I would have been, what's the point? Why are you doing it? And if it's not fulfilling the metric of what is required, then let's reframe what the purpose is and how you can get to that actual and attain what the purpose was, right? Whether it's thought leadership, whether it's news, whether it's, making sure that people know that you're on top of it and understanding all the news and politics and everything else that's going into those topics. Those are all a different conversation, right? And part of what he said was hand holding somebody through their journey and talking about what that next step is. That's a different conversation than something else. And so let's really try to identify what the point is and then reverse engineering how to actually achieve and maintain those metrics.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. We have time for one more question. This lovely lady here.
Hi. So you talked about more of like the personalization of using ChatGPT and the consistency of it. So my question is how are you generating that in ChatGPT? Do you pop in something that says, give me a month plan of emails that I can get sent out? Give me, like, how often are you doing it so that it also doesn't, in a sense, repeat itself as well?
Okay. Do you want to
If
take it? Or
that
you want me
makes
to take
sense.
I mean, so part of that is, again, going back to the inputs that you're actually putting in and the prompt engineering there. But how many of you use custom instructions in your chat GPT? That's a baseline, right? So that alone is one step beyond the normal user or the normal output. But that's one step. And then how many of you guys used ChatGPT to write your custom instructions, right? And so there's pages and layers of how you can utilize and optimize and just dig in deep, deep, deep down to the rabbit hole. But part of that is all in the insights and the inputs that you put in order to get it. Um, the insights is probably the next biggest thing, and utilizing as much data and the summation of that data and kind of addressing what, again, going back to the metrics, what addressing what the point is and addressing what it might require and what data points it might require to get to that actual insight, because the insight is probably the hardest part. It has all this data, but it can't give you a valuable insight to be able to utilize it for the metric that you're trying to go with, or the objective that you're trying to go with. That's the key differentiator on how to attain the ideal execution of it.
And I will say, when you want to personalize, each chat is a history. So what you do within that chat, it can have the context of that conversation. If you open a brand new chat, it's just gonna start from brand new. It's like a child. You're teaching them again. So if you keep it within that chat, and again, don't ask it to write sales copy for a landing page and then write me the ad copy. Think about it as two different individuals, because in that way it have that persona and is specific to that. And then what you do is that you have to tweak it. Like I said, the input. So you going, start working with us. Okay, here's what I want. Give me an example. Okay, when you find what you like, ask that chat, please give me the prompt so I can create this output for a custom GPT. And what it's gonna do is it's gonna see everything that it did previous to your question, and it's gonna give you then a whole paragraph of things, so now it can repeat it. When you find that, you create your own custom GPT. So now every time you go, if it's again, it's an email sequence, a welcome email sequence. Okay, give me a welcome email sequence for, and it can do it, and it's gonna be very similar. But the personalization is that, and it's practice, practice, practice. We're out of time, but if you want more questions, we can talk about it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Big round of applause for these two genius speakers.